Hajj is an annual pilgrimage to the holy city of Mecca in Saudi Arabia, and it's one of the five pillars of Islam, meaning it is the core act of worship required of all able-bodied Muslims who can afford the journey at least once in their lifetime. And Hajj is performed during the Islamic lunar month of Dhul Hijjah, which is now, specifically from the 8th to the 13th day. And it's a spiritual experience meant to cleanse the soul and promote equality among believers and commemorate the trials of the Prophet Abraham and his family. So Hajj involves a series of rituals performed over several days in and around Mecca. So the first thing that people do is they go into ihram, which is a spiritual purity, and they wear special garments, two white garments for men, and for women it can be a garment of her choosing. The second thing is that they circle the Kaaba 7 times in the Grand Mosque, which is called a tawaf. The third thing is the sa'i, which is walking around 7 times between the hills of Safa and Marwa. Then the fourth thing is the travel to Mina. A pilgrim stand there in the night prayer. The fifth area is around the day of Arafat, where you're standing in prayer at the plain of Arafat, which is a mountain, and that is the pinnacle of Hajj. And then the seventh thing is around the Jamarat. You throw the pebbles and symbolic pillars representing the Satan in Mina. The eighth thing is in memory of the Prophet Abraham's willingness to sacrifice his son, which is the sacrifice of an animal. And then you have the Tawaf al-Ifada, which is the circumambulation of Kaaba itself. And then the farewell Tawaf with the Tawaf al-Wada, which is around the final circling of the Kaaba before you depart to either Medina or you depart to your homes. So due to climate change and temperatures in Mecca, which have risen significantly, sometimes exceeding 50 degrees Celsius, which is 122 Fahrenheit, these extreme temperatures increase the risk of heat exhaustion or heat stroke. Heat stroke is a life-threatening condition where the body's cooling system fails, or dehydration, which can cause kidney failure or cardiovascular collapse. Hajj rituals require significant physical effort. You're walking long distances, you're standing for hours, for example, in Arafat, and you're moving through crowds. Under those hot conditions, the body tires more quickly, and those with heart or lung or kidney diseases or kidney issues are much more likely to be at higher risk of collapsing or dying. And then there is the issue around air pollution and respiratory issues. Climate change contributes to worsening air quality, for example, and the massive traffic and the CO2 emissions during Hajj worsens the problem. So people with asthma or respiratory diseases may suffer attacks or complications.
Hajj, one of the five pillars of Islam, is a spiritual journey that every able-bodied and financially capable Muslim is required to perform once in a lifetime. Held annually in Mecca, Saudi Arabia, it attracts millions of pilgrims from across the globe. But this centuries-old pilgrimage is facing new challenges in the modern world. Climate change is dramatically increasing risks for pilgrims, especially as Hajj shifts toward the peak of Saudi summers in the coming decades. In 2024, hundreds of unregistered pilgrims reportedly died in extreme heat, some walking in temperatures exceeding 50 degrees Celsius without access to basic services like air-conditioned buses or shaded rest areas, privileges reserved for officially registered participants. Rising costs, often between $5,000 and $10,000, are pushing many pilgrims to bypass official channels, exposing them to dangerous conditions and exploitation by unlicensed agents. Despite Saudi Arabia's crackdown on unauthorized pilgrims, the high costs remain a barrier, especially for Muslims from low-income countries. Health risks are growing, with heat stroke, respiratory issues, and dehydration becoming more common during the physically demanding rituals of Hajj. Experts warn that climate-linked health threats will only worsen, as the combination of extreme heat, overcrowding, and air pollution creates a dangerous environment for the millions attending. At the same time, Saudi Arabia views Hajj and Umrah as economic assets, earning over $12 billion annually before the pandemic. Under Vision 2030, the kingdom aims to welcome 30 million pilgrims each year, expanding religious tourism to diversify its economy beyond oil. However, critics say this commercialization must not come at the expense of safety and equity. With growing demand, extreme climate events, and increasing costs, the future of Hajj lies at the intersection of faith, public policy, and environmental responsibility, raising urgent questions about how to protect all pilgrims, regardless of their economic status, in the decades ahead.
So if a Muslim wants to travel for Hajj and they live in a Muslim country, most likely they will travel with a religious ministry in their country. Sometimes they may have to register and begin to open a bank account. Sometimes they might have to join a lottery. And this is because there is a quota on the number of Muslims who can travel for Hajj every year. Since 1988, there has been a quota for each country that is at the rate of 1,000 pilgrims per 1 million of Muslim population. Sometimes there are challenges around unofficial Hajj journeys. We know that some pilgrims are promised entry for Hajj by unscrupulous Hajj organizers. This could happen around the world. And if pilgrims are taken for Hajj but don't have access to services, then they could find themselves in particular difficulty. Most recently, the Saudis have gone very strong in their media campaigns around no Hajj without a permit, and they have tightened up security in this regard. So Hajj becomes a question of policing borders, as well as a health issue, as well as an attempt to promote tourism and
jarak antara
अजी हिम्मत करे मेरा भी सुबह बुरा बुरा हाल था
अच्छे भी हैं
नहीं
ग्रुप के बच्चे
I think the Hajj has been commercial for many decades, if not centuries. But in recent years, we've seen it increasingly reflecting market forces. If you talk to Hajj organizers, they'll tell you about changing costs in Saudi Arabia. There have been new taxes. Companies that perhaps were once public companies have been privatized. We can also see the way in which VAT and other taxes have been added to the costs of services. So historically, of course, the Saudi economy relied greatly on Hajj. This was before the discovery of oil. But in recent decades, the great wealth that came with oil has had its ups and downs. Therefore, the Saudis have been keen to look at ways of diversifying their economy. And most recently, since 2016, with Vision 2030, pilgrimage and religious tourism has been a key aspect of this. The Vision 2030 ambition is to double Hajj numbers to around 6 million and Umrah numbers to around 30 million.